folks, we just got a bombshell report about the political beliefs of the shooter at Trump's rally in Pennsylvania the other day. Now, this has been a big question for people around the country who've been following the story closely. Like, who is this guy? What does he believe? What are his political beliefs? Why did he do it? What's his motive? Now, the FBI is still working on all of this tirelessly 24/7. They're putting so much work into getting to the bottom of this tragedy. But we just got some reporting from a local news agency in Pennsylvania today that could give us a clearer view of the political beliefs of the shooter. This news agency talked to some of the shooter's neighbors who lived around him in the neighborhood he lived in, and they confirmed that he had some political signs on his yard in recent years. Those political signs? Trump signs. Trump supporting signs. Seriously. So we're going to look at the reporting. We'll talk about it a little bit, but here is that reporting from the local news agency.
Investigators dressed in plain clothes as well as FBI agents approach this house. That's where the family of Thomas Crooks lives, which is right here on Milford Drive. Then we started to see those agents going door to door, canvassing the neighborhood and speaking with people who live here. They're trying to get answers to the many questions that still remain. Crooks's motive is still unclear. Records show he is a registered Republican, and neighbors today told us that they've actually seen Trump signs outside of the home over the course of the last few years.
Yeah, so some fantastic reporting there from 11 News, a local news agency, I believe in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They also actually spoke to neighbors who talked about seeing these signs in front of the shooter's yard. Take a look at that here as well.
Neighbor Kelly Little had few answers for the FBI and just as many questions herself. She said until recently there were pro-Trump signs in the Crooks' front yard.
There absolutely was MAGA supporting things for a while.
MAGA supporting things the shooter had in front of his house. This is quite a startling report. Look, I think that there's been a lot of speculation as to who this person supported, what their political beliefs were. A lot of the Republicans initially just automatically blame the Democrats, right? Automatically, Republicans were like, oh, it's a crazy liberal, it's a crazy Democrat. But every piece of evidence thus far has told us the opposite. You know, people like J.D. Vance, Donald Trump's new vice presidential pick, blame the Democrats. Said it was because of Joe Biden, said that he incited one of his supporters to do it. Marjorie Taylor Greene actually said that the Democrats were behind it. Seriously, tried to blame the Democrats for this lunatic committing a tragedy. But it seems like every piece of evidence, as I just mentioned, is pointing in a different direction. So maybe those Republicans who are elected members of our government, when it might take those posts down, maybe they should wait for confirmation on this stuff before jumping the gun. I think that most logical people, most Americans were saying, hey, let's wait a little bit longer right now. And even I am still waiting a little bit longer right now. I'm not definitively saying that this shooter is MAGA or that he loved Donald Trump. I'm just basing what I'm saying off of what we know to be the truth. We're still waiting from the FBI. But no, that was not the Republican side. They jumped to liberal Democrat. They caused this. They incited this. But it just doesn't seem to be the case. And we are getting more pieces of information that point to the shooter being a conservative. However, again, I'll stress, we don't know this for sure. Obviously, we learned recently that the shooter was a registered Republican, that when he turned 18, he registered and then voted in the 2022 midterms as a registered Republican. And in Pennsylvania, it's important to note that you don't actually have to register with a party. You don't have to pick Democrat or Republican like they do in some states. You can become an independent. You can register with another party if you choose. That's not the case here. The shooter decided to register with the Republican Party and then vote as a registered Republican in the midterm shortly thereafter. So that's another, I think, context-adding piece of information here. And it's also important to note that we have heard from not only his neighbors, we've not only looked at his voter registration, but some of his former classmates gave an interview on the shooter, and they spoke to, what his political beliefs were. And this is fascinating stuff. So here's a interview that a former classmate did with the Philadelphia Inquirer the other day. Max R. Smith, the former classmate, recalled taking an American history course with Crooks, the shooter, as a sophomore. He did recall Crooks making political statements, but they shed no light on his actions on Saturday. He said, quote, he definitely was conservative. It makes me wonder why he would carry out an assassination attempt on the conservative candidate. Smith recalled a mock debate in which their history professor posed government policy questions and asked students to stand on one side of the classroom or the other to signal their support or opposition for a given proposal. The majority of the class, quote, were on the liberal side, but Tom, no matter what, always stood his ground on the conservative side. That's still the picture I have of him, just standing alone on one side while the rest of the class was on the other. The former classmate also recalled Smith as generally kind and intelligent, if reserved. So those are just a couple of pieces of information that point in one direction, that this individual was more conservative. He wasn't a Biden-loving Democrat. He appeared to be a Trump supporter, Trump merchandise in front of his house, registered Republican, and all of these things. This could speak to motive. We don't know. I mean, we're still waiting for the FBI on this, as I've mentioned multiple times now. I want to make that clear. We're still waiting for the FBI, still waiting for official confirmation. We don't want to be like the Republicans and jumping to a conclusion like they do with no evidence. It's not who we are as Democrats. So we don't know yet. We're still waiting. But it is fascinating. And I think it really, as the story evolves and as we learn more, it really just shows you the irresponsibility of the Republicans with making a conclusion in their own head. They automatically see something bad happening to Donald Trump, and consistently they blame the Democrats. With this tragedy, this shooting, which was done by one lunatic, they blame Joe Biden. They blame the Democrats. Whether it's Donald Trump's trial in New York City, found guilty of 34 felonies. They don't blame Donald Trump for breaking the law. No, they say that Joe Biden did it. He's found liable for sexual abuse in New York City. They say that somehow the Democrats did it. He's found liable for extensive business fraud. They say somehow the Democrats did it. Trump is indicted in 3 different jurisdictions. Somehow, Democrats did it. That's kind of the mentality we see so often with Republicans when it comes to anything bad happening to Donald Trump. And it's such a dangerous mentality. It is a cult mentality. It is a cult mentality. Them jumping on this automatically saying, oh, it must be the Democrats, the big bad Democrats who did this, and it must be the big bad Democrats who incited this, and then not even correcting themselves or at least taking their posts down as we learn more. Number one, they shouldn't be putting out in the first place, but number two, not even taking the post down as we learn more. It's just who the Republicans are, man. It's really showing some nasty side of a lot of these Republicans that we kind of knew was there, but they're really showing it. They're just like putting it out in the open that they're conspiratorial, that they're divisive and things like that. And I think that this entire tragedy, this incredibly sad story, has really emphasized that side of a lot of Republicans like J.D. Vance, like Donald Trump's VP pick. And like many other Republicans around J.D. Vance, many of the Republicans who have endorsed Donald Trump for president. So interesting reporting here. Quite the twist in the story, I might say, at least the twist in the Republican Party story of what happened. So we're still waiting for more confirmation from the FBI on all of these things. But we'll talk about that when and if we get it. So I appreciate you being here. I'm going to wrap up the video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe down below. It goes an incredibly long way. Also drop a like on the video and comment. Let me know what you think about all of this. And look, I appreciate you, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.